change the subject over to something that's a little less P-doom. We're going to talk about do we care? Kind of a fun thing we do from time to time. I've got two recent news stories about digital marketing, but the real question is, do we as marketers care? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Iain tends to not care about a lot of the things, but we'll see where it goes this time. Story number one. Mark Zuckerberg recently shared some screenshots of Threads testing a TweetDeck-like interface with columns. He called it pinned columns for threads on web. But let's be honest, it's TweetDeck. It's TweetDeck for threads is exactly what it is. Now, my interesting question to you, Iain, as a true fan of the OG TweetDeck, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, do you care about this possibility of a TweetDeck-like system in place for threads?
I'm going to have to stick with the status quo and not care about this one either. Sorry, Brian. I think it's interesting, but I am not a Threads user personally, and I obviously when Threads first came out, it seemed very, very popular, got a lot of traction very, very quickly from being in the news and everything. A lot of people joined up. But we spoke, I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, about that number starting to drop off. Now, I don't know if it is leveled out or if it is starting to grow again, but I think it's more to do with the fact that it's Threads than the layout that is the reason I don't really care. I also kind of feel like, as much as we loved TweetDeck back in the day, the OG one, it was a product of its time, and it was great at that time, at least a decade ago now, more. So yeah, is it still relevant? Maybe, and maybe a lot of people will get great use out of it, and they will care. But for me, it's a no. Sorry, Zuck.
Wow. I try to find something here that you'll care about every week.
I know. Sorry.
9 times out of 10, don't care. Don't care.
I care about Pitfall in St Andrews.
Okay, yeah. If Pitfall was re-released, would you care?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay. Okay. For me, I'm kind of in your boat. I use Threads a little bit and experiment with it, but I don't use it a ton. I do appreciate that they're trying to make the web interface better, because as we know from using OG TweetDeck way back in the day, that really changed how we were able to use TweetDeck on a desktop computer by having multiple streams going and searches, etc. At that time I was doing social for a brand. That was a lifesaver, having that ability to get a nice layout across your screen. So if it does the same things for power Threads users, then awesome. That's fantastic. And I think anything you can do to allow users to be to make Threads easier for them will probably encourage more brands and larger accounts to get involved, which ultimately might allow Threads to grow. So in that regard, I care a little bit, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, they're testing it right now. Nothing has come out, so it's just simply testing. But I would imagine there's been a call for that kind of thing. So we'll see where it goes. And you know what? Maybe even for a guy like me with strong coffee, would we consider using Threads more if it was a little bit more user friendly in that regard for a brand, perhaps? But we'll see where it goes.
I think one other thing that is worth mentioning is the original TweetDeck let you log into multiple accounts in one user interface, but I don't think this Threads one is going to do that, right? It's just you're kind of just is that correct? So
it wasn't very clear. He gave it a one-liner and showed a couple of screenshots. So you're right. If you could do multiple accounts as well, which TweetDeck you could do, that was pretty beneficial as well.
Yeah, because if you're working for a number of clients, it's handy to have 3 or 4 accounts open at one time. Whereas so I'm not sure whether Threads will offer that, but if it does, then I might switch my no to a yes. That might interest me.
Well, I'm going to jot that down. Here we go. Jot it down, and we'll see where it comes. You know what else it could be is maybe it's not multiple Threads accounts, but you could also use Instagram in it, which obviously they're hand in hand. Is that something that would be of interest to brands or to kind of power users? So we'll circle back on this one, Iain.
Sounds good.
I just want you to care about Threads one day.
Thank you.
Okay. Story number 2. Google has introduced AI overviews in search results. A simple way to describe this, I saw an article somewhere describe it as Google does the Googling for you. Using AI, Google will help you better find solutions to your problems by collecting information from a variety of sources instead of simply presenting a list of single sources. While the technology is still new, it shows us how search could change in the future. This one goes a little bit deeper than the threads one and their pinned columns, but the question remains, do we care? I can go first on this one. I care about this one way more than the threads one because I think Google and search is way more relevant and we care about it on a much more regular basis at our agency. I think it's kind of that as search evolves, things like this are going to happen. Now, obviously, there's been some really interesting and funny results from it as the kinks kind of get worked out. You know, I saw, for example, people were putting in things. There was one that showed, you know, if your cheese keeps falling off your pizza, to put glue on the cheese. Obviously, that's not the case. But what it's doing is it's finding little snippets from different sources and pulling them all together so you get more of a true answer to your question, as opposed to here's a list of possible answers, you go figure it out on your own. So I definitely think this is the way that search is going. You know, there's definitely some things they need to work on. We can't use it here. It's not available in Canada yet. I've seen it in action, but I haven't been able to use it yet. So I guess the answer, I care about this more than threads. And I think I care more about this is giving us a glimpse as to what search is going to look like in the future, as opposed to necessarily this is how Google is doing it right this second. What about you?
Yeah, 100% agree. I care about this one a lot more. I think it's interesting. Obviously, for some time, Google has been taking this approach with the search engine results where it hasn't been AI to my knowledge, but when you type in a question, it will sort of generate a result, if it can pull it from somewhere like Wikipedia, where it just, at the top of the search engine results, rather than it being a link, it will try to answer your question. Now, in the past, that's always been very, very simple questions, and obviously the AI integration is trying to let this do it with much more complex questions. The example they gave was, how do I clean a fabric couch? And it did come up with, it said the various ways you can do it, or you can clean the whole thing, you can spot clean it, you can dry clean it, you can do this and this and that. And I thought that was interesting. The one thing that concerned me slightly, I guess, or not concerned me, but is the direction that I think Google is going to go with this, is that there are far more ads higher up the search engine results now based on your questions, or there certainly were in the example that they shared. And so, yes, does this actually improve search, I guess, is the real question. If you're looking for something specific or a specific web page, that's now going to be probably further down the page than it was before. So I think it's probably going to be a change in direction for how we search and what search engine results look like in the future. So, yeah.
And you're right. Like a search engine page, it's like real estate. Now you've got to assign part of that real estate to this AI, the snippet at the top. Then you're going to have ads in there somewhere, and then you're going to start seeing organic results. So it just keeps pushing the organic further down the chain.
Exactly.
And then to your point too about how else it could change. How do we create content, or how does content get indexed, or do you change the type of content you create to try to play up to the AI side of things, as opposed to previously we're trying to rank high organically, or is there a tie there where it still pulls from higher ranked pages into the response it gives you? And you mentioned the ads. Well, we run a lot of ads through Google with our agency. Is there a fall off in the amount of leads and traffic that are generated from those ads because they're being shoved down the pipe too? So yeah, there's a lot of things, but I guess, like we deal with all the time in the world of digital, things change. You have to just figure it out and keep moving forward.
Indeed.
Now, I mentioned the cheese and the pizza one. There was another example. There was a Twitter thread that was just going with all these crazy examples of things that this new tool was saying. And somebody asked it the question of, has a dog ever played in the NBA? Now, you watch a lot of basketball. I only watch it at playoffs. I'm like a playoff basketball guy. I've watched a few games recently. You watch a fair amount of basketball, but I think it's safe to say between the two of us, we have never witnessed a dog play in the NBA, correct?
That's my recollection. I do not remember.
Preseason, regular season, postseason, I've never seen it. According to Google and this new AI offering, it said that a dog had played in the NBA before. So right. I don't know where it got that from, whether it was pulled from some sort of satirical site or something. But I did do a bit of research because I'm all about research. I even went a step further and I went and looked at Air Bud. Air Bud, if you go back and look, he didn't ever play in the NBA. He played in a much lower league, like a high school league. He actually played for the Fernfield Timberwolves. Right. So, yeah, he didn't even play in the NBA. So I'm not sure where Google was getting that from.
I don't know.
I'll keep my eyes open.
Yes.
But I haven't seen it.
See that.
Yeah. And to stick with our golf theme, too, I think it's due time that they make an Air Bud golf movie. I think it sets up well. Air Bud can be outside, whether he's swinging a club, which I don't know how he would do with his little paws, or is he taking the ball and throwing it or placing the ball? I'm not sure. But I call on those in charge of creating the Air Bud franchise to consider a golf movie with Air Bud in it. And I've even come up with some suggestions for a title for this soon to be released, I hope, Air Bud golf movie. I think Dogleg Right would be an outstanding name. It ties in the golf reference and a dog's leg. And the other one would be In the Rough, but if you spell rough, R-U-F-F.
That's tremendous. I like that.
I'm giving these away on our podcast for free. Yeah. So do what you will with them, Air Bud and team. And if this ever does come to fruition and we see Air Bud Dogleg Right or Air Bud In the Rough, we got to get something, like a couple of hoodies or something, right? We got to get something out of it. Air Bud hoodie would be fantastic. So, there you go. So we've covered off Google, and I guess for the most part we care about the Google story, not so much about the Thread story, but we can both agree that we want to see a golfing version of Air Bud.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Maybe I should put Air Bud golf movie as one of the Do We Cares next week when Duncan's back and see what he says.
We should put it as pre-production on IMDb and
yeah. We'll see what we can do.